The raffia mat that was being used to cover the front of the hut moved slightly as the cool afternoon breeze whipped through Amma's hair. She touched her hair slightly and giggled at the words of Kwame, her lover. She loved the way he spoke to her, with such tenderness and sincerity, making her feel like the most cherished person alive. They had just finished making love, and she was atop him, her legs intertwined with his. Amma smiled at him, showing teeth. "So what do you think will happen? Let us run away where no one will find us. You can be the wise man in some other village," she said, tracing circles on his scarred chest. Lying next to her, Kwame, the kind-hearted farmer, said nothing at first. His thoughts were far away from their current predicament. Kwame didn't want to run away with her without considering the consequences. He knew that leaving without a plan would be dangerous for both of them. Kwame had long decided that he wouldn't let his fear dictate his actions, but he couldn't help feeling a pang of guilt. He wanted to protect Amma, to love her fully, but he knew their path wouldn't be easy. He did not look at Amma's face because he did not want to see the disappointment in her eyes. When no one was watching, he often convinced himself that caution was necessary, not cowardice. Amma felt a surge of frustration. She was serious about their future together, and she wanted Kwame to share her urgency. Suddenly, the raffia mat was pushed aside forcefully, and two huge men barged into the room where Amma lay naked, and Kwame, equally unclothed, stood above her. Amma's face was frozen in horror and fear. Her worst fear had come to pass, and they had been caught. In a small village nestled in the heart of Ghana, near the Ashanti kingdom, there lived a beautiful girl named Amma. Amma was known throughout the village for her striking beauty, with her dark, smooth skin and eyes that sparkled like the stars. Despite her beauty, Amma was wise and humble, always helping her mother with the chores and taking care of her younger siblings. But that was not all Amma loved doing. In the eyes of others, she was wise and humble and obedient, but when no one was watching, Amma was a bully, and her siblings and the other kids feared her. But the villagers often praised her, saying, "Amma is the pride of our village. She will grow up to be a great woman." When her mother would send her to fetch water from the river, Amma would gather the village children and lead them into the forest, where she would force them to do her bidding. They dared not refuse, for Amma had a fierce temper and a sharp tongue. "Amma, please, we are tired," little Kofi would plead. After carrying heavy loads of firewood, she demanded they collect. "Don't be lazy, Kofi," Amma would retort, her eyes flashing with anger. "Do you want me to tell everyone you are a weakling?" The fear of being shamed by Amma kept the children in line, and they complied with her harsh commands, even if it meant bruised hands and aching backs. Amma's siblings bore the brunt of her cruelty at home. When the adults were away, she ruled the household with an iron fist. Her younger brother Kwame often received the harshest treatment. "Kwame, why is this floor not clean?" Amma would shout, her voice echoing through the small house. "But Amma, I just swept it," Kwame would reply, his eyes wide with fear. "Do it again, and this time make sure it's spotless, or you'll regret it," she would threaten, brandishing a thin switch she kept hidden under her bed. The children in the village whispered among themselves, warning each other about Amma's hidden nature. "Be careful not to cross her," they would say. "She may look kind and beautiful, but her heart is as cold as stone." Amma's dual personality baffled everyone who knew her. In public, she was the epitome of grace and kindness. She would help the elderly carry their heavy loads, offer comforting words to those in distress, and her laughter would light up the village square. But behind closed doors, her true nature emerged, and the children she tormented knew better than to expose her. In public, she was the epitome of grace and kindness. She would help the elderly carry their heavy loads, offer comforting words to those in distress, and her laughter would light up the village square. But behind closed doors, her true nature emerged, and the children she tormented knew better than to expose her. One day, the village chief announced a grand festival
to celebrate the end of the harvest season. People from neighboring villages would come, and there would be music, dancing, and feasting. Amma was excited about the festival, but her heart ached with loneliness. She yearned for true love, someone who would love her for who she was, not just for her beauty. At the festival, everyone would regard her as the most beautiful girl, and able-bodied men from other villages would make advances toward her, while other girls in her age group would look on in jealousy. While she loved all of that, she wanted to find what the other, not-so-good-looking maidens had. Amma had often wondered what it was that made the other girls so happy, despite not having her looks. She saw them walking hand in hand with young men who seemed genuinely smitten, their eyes full of admiration and affection that went beyond physical attraction. They shared laughter that reached their eyes, whispers that brought shy smiles, and touches that conveyed a deep, unspoken connection. Amma longed for such intimacy, but it always seemed just out of reach. Since she was beautiful, she was only allowed to get married to whoever her father or the village head chose for her, and she knew their pick would be a middle-aged man with a handful of wives. Amma felt like crying, but she didn't. Her mood at the festivities didn't improve, especially when she heard some girls talking about her earlier that day. They had just finished the wrestling part of the festival that was meant to be a subtle parade for young maidens to select an able-bodied young man. Amma had been thirsty and had wandered away from the podium where her and her family were seated. Since she was beautiful, she was only allowed to marry whoever her father or the village head chose for her, and she knew their pick would be a middle-aged man with a handful of wives. Amma felt like crying, but she didn't. Her mood at the festivities didn't improve, especially when she heard some girls talking about her earlier that day. They had just finished the wrestling part of the festival, which was meant to be a subtle parade for young maidens to select able-bodied young men. Amma had been thirsty and had wandered away from the podium where she and her family were seated. Some girls sat on a mat under a large baobab tree, whispering and giggling. As Amma approached the well to fetch water, she couldn't help but overhear their conversation. "Hey, have you seen Amma today?" one of the girls, Akosua, said in Twi, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "She looks like a peacock, always parading her beauty around." "I nokwear, it's true," another girl, Adjoa, agreed. "But what good is all that beauty? She will never find true love. All she is good for is to be shown off." The girls laughed, and Amma's heart sank. She continued to draw water, trying to ignore their harsh words. "Mame na kabio, let me say more," Akosua continued, her voice lowering conspiratorially. "Do you know who her father is planning for her to marry? That old man, Nana Kwame, with all his wives." "I, Asem, what a shame," Adjoa said, shaking her head. "And she thinks she's better than us because of her looks, but she'll end up miserable. Just you wait." Amma couldn't take it anymore. She turned to leave, her heart heavy with their cruel words. She walked back to the festival, trying to compose herself, but the deed was already done. For the next couple of weeks, Amma pondered about what she had overheard. One day, while she was sweeping the compound, Amma decided that she was not going to let the girls be right about her. After all, she knew that deep down, those girls secretly wanted to be her. By morning the next day, Amma finalized her plan. She was going to make herself fall in love with the ugliest guy she saw. In the same village lived Kwame, a young man with a kind heart but an unfortunate appearance. And understanding. "Maha, good morning, Amma," Kwame greeted, his voice gentle. "Maha, Kwame," Amma responded politely, though her voice carried a hint of sadness. Kwame set his fishing gear down and sat on a nearby rock. He studied Amma's face, noting the traces of distress. "Amma, are you all right? You seem troubled." Amma sighed.
looking down at the water. Kwame, sometimes I feel like a bird trapped in a cage. Everyone sees me as just a beautiful face, but no one cares about what's inside. Kwame nodded, his expression thoughtful. Ama, beauty is like a flower. It attracts attention, but it doesn't define the strength of the roots beneath. What troubles you the most? Ama hesitated, then spoke softly. My father and the village head are planning to marry me off to someone I don't love, an older man with many wives. I feel like I have no control over my own life. Kwame's eyes filled with empathy. Amane. It is a difficult situation, he said, choosing his words carefully. But remember, Ama, your worth is not determined by others. You have a voice, and you have the right to express your desires and fears. Ama looked at Kwame, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. But how can I, Kwame? They won't listen to me. They see me as an asset to be traded. Kwame reached out and gently placed his weathered hand on her shoulder. Ama, you are not an asset. You are a human being with feelings, dreams, and a spirit that deserves to be heard. Speak to your father from your heart. Sometimes the strongest voice is the one that speaks softly, but with truth. Ama felt tears welling up in her eyes. Do you think he will understand? Kwame smiled kindly. Your father loves you, Ama. He may be influenced by tradition and expectations, but deep down, he wants what is best for you. Give him a chance to see your perspective. Ama nodded, feeling a sense of resolve. Thank you, Kwame. Your words mean a lot to me. Kwame patted her shoulder. Nai hui, it's nothing, Ama. Now would you like to help me with my fishing? It's a peaceful way to clear your mind. Ama smiled, a genuine smile this time. I'd like that. Together they set about preparing the fishing net. Kwame showed Ama how to cast the net into the water, and they worked side by side in comfortable silence. The rhythmic splashing of the water and the gentle rustling of the trees created a soothing backdrop. It was a given that she was bothered about how he looked, but this was the first time she'd talked to anyone who understood her. Ama decided that he might not be that bad. Kwame, how did you become so wise? Ama asked after a while, her curiosity piqued. Kwame chuckled softly. Wisdom comes from living, Ama, from facing challenges and learning from them. It's not about avoiding difficulties, but embracing them and growing stronger. Ama nodded. It was relatively easy to get Kwame. As they said goodbye to each other that night, Ama was beside herself with joy. Her plan was going as planned. The next week, Ama approached Kwame one evening, her heart pounding in her chest. Kwame, she began softly, I have always admired your kindness and wisdom. Ama did her best to seem happy. Kwame was so ugly that it was uncomfortable for her, but she had to see her plan through. Kwame was taken aback. He had always admired Ama from afar, never daring to dream that she would notice him. Ama, I would be honored, he replied, his voice trembling with emotion. On the other hand, Ama's parents refused. Ama's parents, Pa Asante and his wife, Ma Ama, sat in their modest hut, the flickering light from the oil lamp casting shadows on the walls. Ama stood before them, her heart pounding with anxiety. She had rehearsed her speech many times, but now that the moment had come, her nerves were getting the best of her. Papa, Mama, I need to talk to you, Ama began, her voice shaking slightly. Pa Asante looked up from his meal, his brow furrowing. What is it, Ama? Ama took a deep breath. I have met someone I care about deeply, and I want your blessing to be with him. Ma Ama's eyes widened in surprise. Who is this person, Ama, and why haven't we heard of him before? Ama hesitated, then spoke quickly. His name is Kwame. He is kind and wise, and he understands me in a way no one else does. Pa Asante frowned. Kwame? The man with the scars? The one who works in the fields? Yes, Papa, Ama said,
her voice firming with resolve. "He is more than his appearance. He has a good heart and a gentle soul." Ma Ama shook her head, her expression troubled. "Ama, you are a beautiful girl. You deserve someone who can provide for you, someone who is respected in the community. Kwame is not that man." Ama's frustration boiled over. "Mama, I don't care about those things. I want to be with someone who loves me for who I am, not just for my looks." Pa Asante stood up, his voice stern. "Ama, you are young and naive. You don't understand the importance of Mar.
Kwame cannot give you the life you deserve." Ama's eyes filled with tears. "But I love him, Papa. Can't you see that?" Ma Ama sighed, her voice softening. "Ama, we want what's best for you. We don't want you to regret this decision later." Ama's determination hardened. "I won't regret it, Mama. I know what I want, and I want to be with Kwame." Pa Asante shook his head. "No, Ama. Our decision is final. You will marry the man we have chosen for you." Ama felt her heart break at her father's words. She turned away, her voice trembling with anger and sadness. "I can't do that, Papa. I won't live my life according to someone else's expectations." Ma Ama reached out to her, her eyes pleading. "Ama, please reconsider. Think about your future." Ama shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I have thought about it, Mama, and my future is with Kwame." With that, she turned and ran out of the hut, her parents' voices calling after her. She didn't look back, her mind made up. Late that night, Ama met Kwame by the stream where they had first talked. Kwame looked at her, concern etched on his face. "Ama, what's wrong?" Ama took his hands in hers, her eyes shining with determination. "Kwame, we have to leave. My parents won't approve of us being together. They want me to marry someone else." Kwame's heart ached at her words. That night, Ama gathered her things and slipped out of the compound. As Ama and Kwame slipped away into the darkness, the cool night air brushed against Ama's skin, sending a shiver down her spine. The village sounds faded behind them, replaced by the whispers of the wind and the distant calls of nocturnal animals. Ama tightened her grip on Kwame's hand. She glanced at him, his scarred face made bright by the faint moonlight. Despite his outward appearance, Kwame's inner beauty shone through, and Ama felt a deep connection with him. Yet, doubt gnawed at her heart. Was she making the right decision? Could she truly leave behind everything she had ever known for an uncertain future? They reached a clearing where the stream flowed gently, its surface shimmering under the moonlight. Kwame stopped and turned to Ama, his eyes reflecting the same blend of hope and uncertainty that she felt. "Ama, are you sure about this?" Kwame asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "We can still turn back." Ama hesitated, looking back toward the village, her heart aching with the thought of what she was leaving behind. She had always been seen as the beautiful girl destined for a prestigious marriage, but deep down she longed for something more, something real and meaningful. Ama began, her voice trembling. "I'm not sure, Kwame. This is all so overwhelming. What if we fail? What if we can't find happiness?" Kwame took a step closer, gently cupping her face in his hands. "Ama, happiness isn't something that's given to us. It's something we create together, through our love and support for one another. I can't promise you that everything will be perfect, but I can promise you that I will always be by your side." Tears welled up in Ama's eyes. She knew that Kwame spoke from his heart, and his sincerity touched her deeply. She realized that her fear wasn't about leaving the village. It was about the unknown future. But with Kwame, she felt a sense of hope that she had never felt before. Ama took a deep breath, feeling a surge of determination. "You're right, Kwame. We might face challenges, but we'll face them together. I want to create a life with you, one where we are free to be ourselves." Kwame smiled, his eyes filled with love and admiration. "Then let's go, Ama. Let's find our happiness together." Ama nodded. She'd chosen this path. If you like this story, Don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe button. Until next time.